wouldn't it be cool? There's probably a bunch of people that want to have some sort of meetup to talk about this stuff and have like once a week an interesting conversation in VR in Spatial Ape beforehand, just to kind of get warmed up and just chit chat about this stuff and maybe learn something new and learn from each other and kind of grow and explore the space in, what more cerebral place than VR. So, like I said, my name is Matt. My app is Zen VR. We teach meditation in virtual reality like it's taught in a Zen dojo. Ben, who I think is over there, his
Hey,
tag is
Ben.
bio998. He has an app called Swingle, which is kind of like a
Hello.
trippy puzzle game. And Nikolai, he's not going to be here this week, but he has an app called Horizon Mind. And they do CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy stuff in VR. So yeah, the three of us together have kind of been working to put this on, and the way this will go is we have brought a topic with us. You may have seen it in the Discord, or maybe not, and we'll kind of bring some discussion ideas, discussion points, talk on these topics. I think myself and Ben will kind of guide and lead the discussion, and then, anywhere that you guys want to chime in, if something we says sparks a reaction for you all, you think you can add to the conversation in any way whatsoever, just sharing a personal experience, your opinion on a subject, whatever it may be, please chime in. We want this to be kind of like a circle, a conversation of us all kind of talking. So we're just here to kind of guide that and give it some direction and push it along. So yeah, that's basically what Consciousness Corner is. And then this week's Consciousness Corner, our topic is stress and dealing with stress. And I think that this is something, especially over the past year and a half, 2 years now, we have all had to deal with. But honestly, even without a pandemic, I'm sure every single one of us here, just by the nature of human existence, has dealt with stress in some way or the other. And I guess before I get going, oh, well, never mind. Ben's falling through the floor. I don't know how he did that. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to start this discussion off just kind of making a little bit of a distinction here when we talk about stress and like what is stress? Because we kind of got to define our terms a little bit here. And so the way that I think of stress is, you can almost compare it to like when you say a bridge or something in engineering is being like stress tested. It's like a pressure or a weight is being put on something from an external source. So a stress is like something external to yourself that is pushing down on you in some way, that is creating, I guess, some sort of challenge. You could say it's a catalyst for growth. It can make you feel all sorts of emotions, whatever the stressor is, the thing that causes the stress. But I want to distinguish it that way as opposed to something like worry or anxiety, which is kind of like what you do with the stress, your response to that stress. So a stressful event in your life might be there's a test coming up next week for school, or you have a big project deadline for your boss in 2 weeks. That's a stressful event that you feel that in some way I don't say resonates with your life, but impacts your life. You feel a pressure from something pushing against you. And how we relate to that stress can vary dramatically based on what the stress is, the situation, how we've been kind of conditioned and trained to deal with it. And there's healthy ways of dealing with stress and unhealthy ways of dealing with stress. But I just want to really start off by kind of making that distinguishment between like, yes, the stress is this external thing, something happens in your life. That is usually out of our control. Something happens in our life. But then how do we deal with that? How do we process that? How do we handle that stress is kind of what it really all comes down to. And that's where practices like meditation and mindfulness come in and teaching you how to deal with that all. At a cursory level, Ben, did you have any like, I don't know, do you want to add to that kind of definition of stress at all? Also, hi.
So was that directed to me, Matt?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess, I guess we all experience stress in our lives, so I don't know. I feel like it's quite an intuitive concept, isn't it? But
Okay.
I would say that's all.
Yeah. I think if Nikolai was here, he would give us a little bit more of the science side about stress. And I mean, I think I actually can't speak to what you all are familiar with in terms of like what you've heard on physiology and psychology and stuff, but like the stress response in the body, it's like a very uh, it's a very measurable thing to like see the different chemicals and neurotransmitters fire, and so you can actually like kind of observe if you know what to look at the internal signs of someone is having like a stress response, like the physical biological characteristics
Mm.
when they are like reacting to stress. Um, yeah, so I guess the first thing that I kind of wanted to open up for discussion here is, how do you guys, how do you all deal with stress? What are some healthy ways and unhealthy ways that you deal with stress, or if you don't want to talk about yourself, maybe ways that you've seen stress being dealt with in people's lives. So I would love to hear one of each, what you consider a healthy mechanism and an unhealthy mechanism. Um, and yeah, like you, sandwich artista. Do you
Yeah,
want to
I
go?
was gonna say I nap a lot when I get stressed out, just so I can kind of escape from the stress.
You nap, like sleep?
Yes. Yep.
How do you feel like that in terms of the, and maybe I shouldn't characterize it with like labels, but on the spectrum of like, is this a good coping mechanism for stress and such? How would you kind of place
Uh,
that?
More of a avoiding tactic, I guess. It's just kind of delaying having to deal with it.
Hmm. Yeah. I personally have, in the past, I used to be a huge procrastinator. And I think, at the core, what is procrastination but saying like, ooh, I'm going to do something else now so I don't have to think about the stressful event, the stressful whatever in the present moment, and I'm going to deal with it later, only to just create that stressor at a higher magnitude later down the line when there's an upcoming deadline, when something is getting closer and closer. Um, what else do you guys got? Ways of dealing with stress.
I think
Probably
what you just said
drinking,
about
drinking lots of booze,
Getting drunk,
drinking lots of
drinking.
booze, taking lots of drugs, and going to some rave or the pub or you
how
know.
can you tell if that's stress related or just generally your thrill seeking attitude going forward or something? No, it's hard to draw the line there. I think sometimes it
Yeah,
accomplishes two things at once.
I guess for me, like stress, obviously stress is a kind of acute feeling, and which has, as you say, physiological signs. But then I feel like just on a day-to-day basis, there's this kind of existential stress that we have, that we're always trying to like escape from, whether it be through our morning coffee or through like incessantly reading the BBC News website or Twitter or something, or just like, I don't know, procrastinating, as you say, or um, yeah, I mean, there's a certain part of the human condition which is just like naturally slightly, not necessarily stressed, but just not satisfied, I guess, isn't it? So I'm definitely interested in how technologies can be used to engage with acute stress and anxiety, but also, that more just sort of discontent that we have. Um, and obviously, like Matt, I guess with your app and with your philosophy, you know, Buddhism or meditation fits very much into that category of like how to solve stressful situations. And I think we all have some things that we do in line with that, whether it be sleeping or meditating or, doing some mindfulness or just going for a walk or, doing something other than was stressing us out, like exercise or something like that. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to talk a little bit more on like kind of the Buddhist philosophy side of it all. Um, but I do want to respond to what you were saying, Jimmy, about like, how do you know, if the difference between stress like avoidance or stress coping and thrill seeking in general, right? Because like you could go to a concert or a rave or something and have nothing stressful going on in your life at that point in time, in which case you're going because it's like a fun activity or something that like excites you or energizes you. But think I think it's kind of the situation by situation. It's not like you can draw like or cast a broad net over and say anyone that goes to concerts, anyone that drinks, anyone that smokes is doing so because they have something that they're trying to avoid with stress in their life. I mean, I think on an individual basis, you can look at it and say, look at any particular situation and be like, why am I doing what I'm doing right now? Am I avoiding something? I think a phrase that we hear a lot is like, gosh, I could just go for a drink right now, or like, oh, I need this to take the edge off. I think those are these kind of phrases that are so normalized in our society, and people even say them without thinking about it. But when you really consider like what you're talking about in terms of dealing with stress, there's a lot of like dependency and like avoidance in that language. Like take the edge off. Like gosh, like it sounds like it's so normal to just fight stress with substance, and that is, I would say, generally not a very healthy way of dealing with stuff. I want to give a chance for you all who haven't kind of answered my initial question to throw something out there too or respond. I don't know if you all feel so inclined to. The question was like, what are ways that you cope with or deal with stress, healthy and unhealthy? Yeah, go for it.
I'll go. Well, I had a stroke a while ago due to stress. So for me, stress is a no-no. So I'm avoiding stress all with all my strength. But with the pandemic and stuff, I think we've all been under a lot of stress, unavoidable. And I've looked for groups like this, therapy groups. I've set up therapy groups in VR to enable people to have somewhere to come and feel like they're actually talking to people, and relieve that stress. That in itself has been stressful, setting that up. But it all works out, So I avoid stress. No stress.
Yeah, I guess there is, when we talk about avoidance of stress too, there's a stressful thing that I'm running from, and that's kind of like the coping with like substances kind of avoidance. And then there's like I avoid putting myself into situations that will be stressful because I know that, it's not healthy for me to be so stressed.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that latter one is good. Like it's wise, especially if you know that like stress has had an impact on your health before, and it absolutely can. It doesn't even have to be as drastic as a stroke. It absolutely can affect your health and mental well-being in small ways. Just feeling a constant or nonstop stressful pressure on you for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Becca or Slapstick, who I don't know your actual name of, did you guys have anything you wanted to share for like ways you kind of deal with stress?
Yeah, actually, for me it is like, I mean, I like also all the other ideas here, but for me it is kind of a mix, like going for a walk and listen to my favorite music. Also doing it alone is always nice, so I can keep my pace, and don't have to slow down or so. But actually, to be in motion, physically, is something that helps me over time. So that's the main point of it. Although I don't really like going for a walk, it's not that funny or that much action there. But it's just to be in motion and like with music to surround myself with something that gives me good feelings, something like that.
Yeah. I know a lot of people use exercise as a way of kind of dealing with stress, as a kind of a steam release valve, if you will.
Exactly.
I have one friend who would always say like, yeah, I hate running, but I picked it up to deal with my problems. So I'm like literally running from my problems. which I thought was kind of a funny way of saying
Or
it.
at them. Yeah.
That's exactly a thing.
Yeah. But I mean, the runner's high, the exercise high, it does release chemicals in your body that are shown to help you deal with and endure in stressful situations. So, um, you know, it's on one hand, it's sort of a healthy coping mechanism where you're becoming healthier in general, like you're physically improving your body's condition, and you're releasing chemicals when you exercise in your body that help you deal with stress and kind of neutralize the negative things that are just make it your endurance and resilience. I think resilience is a good word for stressful situations, kind of increases as you exercise on a regular basis. It's a very, very healthy one.
Sorry, guys. Be right back.
Also, do you guys want to like come in closer? I'm having a hard time hearing everyone all around. We can kind of form a slightly tighter circle. Yeah, it's just a little bit easier to hear.
That's better.
Go around
Yeah.
in circles. There we go. Can you hear me?
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, I'm back. Hello.
Hey.
I always start off with it muted by mistake. But yeah, it was really interesting listening to you guys talk. I think definitely been a victim of stress in the last couple of years because everything's just been so chaotic and difficult, and it's just been really difficult couple of years for us. And I wish I had healthier coping mechanisms. I'm working on it, and I definitely find VR helpful for it. But I think part of the problem is we only realise that we need those coping mechanisms when we're already stressed. And I think things like Zen VR are brilliant for helping build those skills in the meantime before you're actually at crisis point. And it's definitely helping me now. I've started using it. I find it absolutely brilliant, Matt. I meant to send you a message and let you know that we've started using it. That's fantastic.
Yay.
And being able to transport and chill out with other VR experiences has been really beneficial. And I think for me as well, helping other people really makes a difference to my own mental health as well. So although it's not good to be working late every night trying to launch VR therapies, at the end of the day, knowing what I'm doing is making a difference does make it a lot more worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you were
Yeah.
saying before, Mike, too, about like arranging groups of people to kind of help and support each other. But
Yeah,
there is the
anticipating we all say in our groups that we're all gonna get a turn in the barrel, you know. So it's anticipating that and putting things in place that I've had to do,
yeah.
you know.
And I think you brought up something interesting too before, Mike, which is like, yeah, as being an organizer or a creator of these things, on one hand, there's this like, I'm helping other people. On the other hand, anytime you try to bring something new into existence or reality, create a group, kind of spark a discussion, help people, there's a lot of energy you have to pour into it. So it's like you have to balance, you're creating something to help the world, to help other people, but also you can't stress yourself out so much to an unhealthy degree in the process.
Yeah.
I think I feel like we all probably kind of understand that one just based on our experiences.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of recognising the things that are within your control and what you don't have that control over, and being able to step back and look at the bigger picture sometimes as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge one. Like you're sometimes shifting your locus of control. I don't know. Is that a phrase that you all are familiar with? Locus of control.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, shifting your locus control, something when you feel like you have to do everything and make everything happen yourself, you are the thing that drives everything, it's a lot of pressure. And sometimes like releasing that grip or control and kind of, I'll say flowing with it or going with it a little bit, going with the flow, can be a big release of just like, yeah, let the waves, let the water kind of carry you, let the universe kind of take you where it's going for a little bit. You don't have to always be, micromanaging. A little bit of trust external to yourself that, the train will keep going even if you're not manning the conductor's seat 24/7 is a huge way to kind of like step back from a stressful situation and like catch your breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you were saying too, Beck, I'm glad to hear that, you're enjoying Zen VR and it sounds like you're getting exactly what the goal is, which is like, yeah, start learning and integrating techniques of like meditation and other like healthy stress coping mechanisms before you're in that crazy stressful situation. Build the habits so that way when the
Yep.
stressful stuff comes up, you've already got this like running thread of like, oh, okay, I already know how to meditate. I already know how to deal with a situation. I know how to count my breath or relax and release and all these things.
Yeah,
That's
and I
really,
think with
really
things like
important.
exercise, it's never going to be beneficial the first time you do it and you're unfit. And I think some people wait till they're stressed out and then someone tells them to go for a run, and it's like, that's the last thing I want to do right now, huffing and puffing. But if you can incorporate it into your daily routine, you do start to see those benefits, and you can see why people are recommending it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll say same thing with meditating too. It's like, one day of meditating is not going to like necessarily change your entire mind frame, but like we say, rewiring your brain slowly over time by practicing this thing. Like meditation is a practice. It's a thing that you get better at as you do it, just like all the sports, all the exercises. You lose Ben. He'll come back.
Disappeared.
He disappeared.
He probably fell through the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have something else to share, which is like I've been listening to a band recently called Wookie Foot. It's a slightly silly name, but they have one song that is like, I have found it very, very peaceful recently, and I wanted to share the lyrics from it. And the song is called Don't Hold Your Breath, and it's basically like, it literally starts with breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And after a couple verses of like some basic lyrics, they have a little verse that's like, worry will not take away your trouble tomorrow, only take away your peace today. Worry will not take away your pain or your sorrow. Bring it back to the breath and it can all melt away. And
No.
one, I thought that was beautiful lyrics and a very nice
That's very
song.
nice.
Yeah, and I think that it rang really true with me. It's like, man, sometimes you're so caught up worrying. What am I doing right now here in the present moment? Stressful stuff is happening and I'm worrying about the future or the past, something I said or have to do. But all it does is take away from your positive experience of the present moment. You're reaching to the future or the past and kind of not living here and now. And how do we deal with that? Grounding ourselves with breathing. And I love this idea of like letting go to the breath. In meditation, a lot of it's like observe your breath. Let it happen on its own. Breath is a thing that can be both experienced as a thing that you do, but also a thing that happens to you. And so kind of instead of
Right.
like trying to force your breathing, you can kind of let it happen, let it flow, and kind of take refuge in just the in and out of breath that happens naturally. And I
Absolutely.
think that song's really beautiful. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm going to go have a listen to that afterwards. I like the sound of the lyrics. And anything that kind of nods towards Buddhism and Eastern philosophy, it always sounds so spot on when you look at the kind of roots of it. It makes sense.
What
Yeah.
song? Sorry, I've jumped out then. What song was that you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah,
It's a song by a band called Wookie Foot, and the song is "Don't Hold Your Breath." And I'm just for everyone, I'm just going to read it again real fast here. The lyrics that really kind of caught my attention were, "Worry will not take away your trouble tomorrow, only take away your peace today. Worry will not take away your pain or your sorrow. Bring it back to the breath, and it can all melt away." And I thought it was a really cool lyric.
very
So
true.
I'll drop it in the Discord afterwards so you all can listen to it.
Cool.
That song you shared with me last night was pretty trippy, man.
Yeah, that's a different angle on it all. For
do
context, yeah, for context, this is not related to stress at all whatsoever. But Adult Swim, the Cartoon Network subsidiary, Adult Swim, put out some crazy music videos by this guy Dan Deacon, and one of them is what was it called? When I was done dying, and it's this kind of like story of someone going on a very trippy journey through the what happened to them when they die. consciousness fades. They go meet all these like extraplanar beings. It's very trippy. Also, very incredibly beautiful music video too. So I can drop that in the Discord too if anyone's interested in checking that one out too.
For contrast.
Very good. Yeah, very complete contrast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Nothing. No, it's just
Okay.
coughing.
Yeah. So I guess now, if there's anything that we've said so far that has sparked you all want to share something, I think this is a good like moment, or if anyone wants to add on to what we've been talking about stress. But if not, I'm going to kind of shift the direction to a little bit more what I was talking about before, stress and anxiety, and a little bit of Buddhist philosophy too.
I wanted to ask if anyone's played Squingle and if anyone finds that relaxing, because I think one of the things we sort of in our marketing is that we say that it's a very relaxing game, and some people have even suggested that we sort of market it in terms of like slightly towards the therapy side as well, like people maybe can use it to relax or to take their mind off something, or but yeah, I don't know if gaming is the best kind of thing for that. But
Well,
what do you?
gaming's brilliant for therapeutic value, totally. I mean, you just think of all the children that are in hospital. There's a straight up kind of benefit
Yeah.
there. And just for the general population as well. I mean, a big part of what we do at our centre is using kind of games for the therapeutic value. There's not a huge amount out there that's designed for therapy in mind. So it is us using kind of what's available on the marketplace and tweaking that for the therapies and for the different kind of benefits. With
How-
yours, I've checked out the video and I'm really looking forward to trying it, but I haven't managed to yet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, please do give it a go. Oh,
Is
if
it
in
available on
your
the marketplace?
it's on App Lab. I mean, I'm happy to share a code with you if you want to download it.
Okay, brilliant. Because that might have been what I can't remember, but that often what stops me trying out different ones is because we've just
Yeah,
not
I mean,
got the
it's
money
like
to try everything.
yeah, it's $15, but there's also a free demo actually that you can play completely for free.
Yeah.
It's got like
Awesome. I did love the look of it. I can definitely see the benefits with it. One of the surprising things that I've found is for children with ADHD, VR could be a brilliant tool for helping them build up their concentration levels and their focus, because you can't, you're blotting out everything else that's going on. There's no other distractions. This is kind of consuming all of your senses in that moment, your sight, your hearing, you're busy holding the controllers. So it really helps kind of keep their focus and build up those levels, which and has a knock-on effect to their school and their education, and it helps them with their relationships. And there's so many kind of benefits to the different things that we do that you don't kind of see that as an immediate obvious benefit, but there really is.
Well, I mean, if it's the kind of thing that I'll give you a code for the game, and if it's the kind of thing you think might benefit your the people that you take care of, then I don't mind shoving a few more codes over to you guys to have some copies available.
Oh, bless you. That's really kind of you. Thank you.
But I'm interested. You mentioned, you think games are good for therapy, but you use what's on the market because there's not that much designed for that. But what's this sort of what's the gap between a game in the market and something you think would be good for therapy? Like in other words, like what kind of a game would be the ultimate for therapy? And obviously maybe different types of therapy might require different types of application. But what kind of games do you go for, and what would you like to be built into those games? Could they be augmented to make them more? Maybe there's a therapy mode on them or something like that, or like a version. And what functionality would you like to see to make that more applicable to your therapy giving sessions?
Matt, I could write a book on this. Like, there's no kind of like quick answer to that one. For me, with the children and adults I work with, it's a lot of disabilities and special needs. So the main thing for us is something that's accessible and adaptable to that. So that's part of why we love hand tracking. So you're not needing to use the controllers. Even better is when you're using head tracking or eye tracking. I work a lot of with people with cerebral palsy, so they're not able to hold the controllers or manipulate them. So the fact that they can fly through space and kind of choose where they're flying just through which direction they're looking at, they are fantastic. So making it more accessible to people. And I think sometimes with apps and experiences in games, they kind of go too focused on making it like a Hollywood blockbuster with all the different options and you can do this and that. And at the end of the day, it just needs to be kind of simple and good at what it does. You know, you don't need all these extra settings and different formats and things. We get amazing results just with being able to travel around the world and doing that kind of the mindfulness, the meditation, helping people tick off their bucket list and things. With the games and going more on like the gamified therapies and healthcare, and my immediate thoughts is focusing more on physiotherapy and rehabilitation. So maybe targeting specific muscle groups. So there's ones that are used in hospitals in England because it's already been developed with some of the teaching universities and hospitals and things. So they've got ones that are for children doing upper limb rehab, and they have one where you're climbing a medieval castle, and so it's getting children to be doing those movements, and they make you reach for certain things, and it's the same exercises that you'd be doing with your physiotherapist and that no kid wants to do in an exercise class. But if they're reached out in the game and it's a part of the game, then they totally enjoy it and it's a different story. So if you're looking at kind of like what the traditional therapies are, so what would a physiotherapist prescribe for that health condition? And then using that to kind of plan how the game can be used to manipulate and benefit for that. This is part of what I enjoy with the centre and what we do is because we offer lots of different experiences and lots of different games and apps and things. We're not focused on just one health condition or one kind of platform or anything. So we can use lots of different things and help lots of different conditions and things. So we're not the developers that are making it. And to make something for rehab, you do have to get quite specific in what exercises. So we can then go and use all these different platforms and different apps and things. And kind of bring it all together for the community. But for a developer like yourself, you'd kind of want to narrow it down and pick kind of one area or one health condition to be focusing on. Another great one is using your breath and biofeedback. So your heart rate can have an impact on what's happening in the game. And yeah, I've got loads of ideas. I'm happy to chat further about it if you want to.
Yeah, obviously Squingle is Squingle, but I think for my next project, I'd like to do something a bit more, less game-like and more, something more that's an experience of like a journey, maybe a sort of a trippy kind of meditative experience, but also with a social element to it. So maybe you're in like a space and you are among other people and you can kind of play with them, not talk to them, but just through play you interact with people, and you might have some sort of amorphous form that's not really quite like an avatar, and you can kind of communicate with people through movement or something like that. Or I feel like it might be useful for people who, especially on the autistic spectrum, who find social interactions quite difficult, but maybe they could enjoy when you strip out some things like language and make things more about play. It might be a less confrontational and more accessible method of socializing, or something like that. I don't know.
That would be fantastic.
So I wanted to say one thing that I think when you first asked Ben about, is Squingle relaxing or is it good for dealing with stress? I think we all kind of had a bit of a reaction like, yeah, video games are a great way of dealing with stress. And, what makes a video game good or not good for dealing with stress is a really interesting question, because I think that there's definitely a spectrum out there of games that are specifically designed to make you addicted and those are definitely not great solutions for dealing with stress. And even like games that aren't made for that, but you can develop an addiction to in the same way as a drug, where you're using this as your coping mechanism. In a way, it's like, I think a game that doesn't try to get you addicted to it, like it's fun to play, but it's not like actively trying to like trick your brain into certain patterns of thinking that will like make it addicted. I think that's a better way of making a stress of releasing game. And then also
Yeah.
just like, our personal relationships with the games we play is almost just as important as the games themselves. Has anyone here actually experienced some degree of video game addiction or binging of games? 'Cause I know I certainly have.
Yeah, Jesus,
Yeah,
I've got
definitely.
hundreds of hours on Skyrim.
Right?
Skyrim. Oh wow, I've heard that one's really addictive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely, I've played competitive games like Dota, which is like League of Legends if you don't know, and I have like quite a few hundreds of hours in that game, and I'm like, man, what could I have done better with my life with not spending hundreds of hours in this one thing if I applied that to something else? But that's one way to look at it, but that's also not the healthiest either, because it's like, well, you do need to release, you do need to let off steam, and it's like playing for 8 hours straight, not good. Playing for 1 hour at the end of the day to unwind, not necessarily a bad way of dealing with it.
As long as you're enjoying it, I think some of these games can be like, you're not even enjoying it. So
Yeah.
if you're spending
You're
hundreds of
always
hours,
rage quitting.
exactly, yeah.
Toxic
If that's-
communities and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of layers to it.
But I think these games can be very entertaining, and I think there's nothing wrong with being entertained. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, actually,
I used to be addicted to Phantasy Star Online, which is a game that came out back when the Dreamcast was around, and that was like when there was a modem to connect, so it used up the phone connection. So I would always do it at night time, because then it wouldn't use the phone during the day. But then, and I was like 14 at the time, and then my parents like got a real shock because there was like 100 quid on the phone bill at the end of the month. Been playing this game all night, every night. So
yeah, I think the idea of being entertained is an interesting one too, because like you can step back from games and say, well, we can deal with our stress by binge watching a TV show or watching a movie instead of doing the thing that's stressing us out. And we certainly live in a society that is trying to keep us entertained at all times, where like something entertaining needs to be happening or we don't feel satisfied. Like if there's not constant stimulation, we don't know how to sit with ourselves and just be calm and just observe and be chill. And I don't know if that's something you all have observed, but I definitely noticed it myself that like sometimes if I'm watching a lot of a show and then like nothing's on, I'm like, I need to be doing something. I need to watch something, make me entertained.
Get that dopamine addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Where you just like, I've noticed that I get like restless hands. Like, you just keep reaching for your phone and you keep refreshing Reddit, and like just being able to step back and chill can actually be quite difficult in itself sometimes.
yeah, that's definitely where meditation comes in.
So
But
I
it's
did.
any.
Go for it, Vic.
Oh, I was going to ask if any of you have found any addictive game in virtual reality, because I haven't.
I found addictive virtual reality games.
Not so much, no.
I know some
Like-
people get addicted to Beat Saber.
Not me.
Not me.
It's
I've heard
get boring
population
after a
one's quite
few months, right? Like, is the novelty to have the Beat Sabers, but I'm talking about something like I was one very, very struggling with Candy Crush, right? Now, try to play Candy Crush without friends, with another account when you don't have friends, and no sound. The game is nothing. Nothing is there, right? But because you have the sound and the friends, that's what makes the game so addictive. So sometimes I was
okay.
actually suffering because I was just 2 steps for completely finish the level, right? And then I see my friend make a better score, and I want to try to do it again. So that's kind of a thing that I need to stay away from, right? In virtual reality, I haven't found that because I I only play like 2-3 hours a day in different games. So I don't really have one game that says like if I don't play today, I feel that anxiety on my body pulling around. I feel like I go into that environment. I enjoy it. Not that I never get upset because sometimes you are getting good scores and then at the end you just ended badly, and that's a little bit like upsetting or stressing, but nothing addictive. Like okay, it's done. Let's go out. Right?
Yeah.
It's more like I see virtual reality more like an enjoyable experience. It's like going to Disneyland, right? You make
Yeah.
an hour line to make 5 minutes ride, and after that you still feel happy about it. It's something like
Yeah.
that. I see it. I haven't found any game like I was expecting. Maybe Tetris is going to be this kind of a addictive game, but I play in virtual reality. Is nothing there that make you feel addictive. It's just like the game, and I play it once or twice, and then I just never play it again. I say, well, I misspend my money there, but so
Well,
I don't know if you have any experience with that
I think with
in
Beat
virtual reality.
Saber, I talked to a lot of people like deep in the Beat Saber community, and maybe this is exactly what you were talking about, like having friends to compete against makes something more addictive. Like you want to go back and get high scores because there's a very competitive community around Beat Saber. And I was talking to a kid who was like one of the top 10 Beat Saber players in the world, and he was like, yeah, I spent 6 to 8 hours a day playing Beat Saber only, just getting better and practicing. And if your mindset is like this, I want to get hyper competitive at this, I want to be the best, or I want to just really, really get good at this particular skill, I think you can get an addiction there. But if you're just playing by yourself,
Maybe
I
that's
think
an addictive personality that's coming into trait, whether it's necessarily the game or it's just the personality type you get attracted to it. And yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
I think
Actually-
for me, I've not found anything that addictive with VR.
There's actually a really interesting thing I noticed with there's if you guys have ever played Final Fantasy 14, I noticed this a lot in the addiction aspect toward that game. Not that it's VR, but they use a lot of casino sounds. So, for example, when you upgrade, there's like a casino cha-ching and stuff like that. And I find that most of my friends who play MMOs just play it constantly. And when they turn the sound off, they don't feel like they have to play it anymore, which reminded me of the Candy Crush. And so I think that leans a lot into the addiction of video games is studios intentionally adding these things to keep their user bases actively present using the addiction. I think that was really fascinating because, when you mentioned over here, Vic, that, when you turn the sound off on Candy Crush, suddenly it's not addicting anymore. It just reminded me of that because the first time I played, I was like, wow, this game's like really good, sort of, but these sound effects are really satisfying. And then it occurred to me, like, oh, wait a second, I've heard these before at a casino.
Right.
Now let's think about it this way, though. Was it maybe the casinos? Maybe it's not like the games are using casino sounds. It's like those sounds that casinos use. They're using those for the same reason, right? Like because they're just really satisfying sounds. And then games have seen as an example. Oh, these are some really satisfying sounds in use. So, we can incorporate those.
Absolutely, that's
But
what I
in a
was
way-
thinking initially.
I think in a way it's kind of just a way of communicating to your brain that a dopamine rush is coming. It's like a trigger.
Yeah.
And so you could train it to any sound whatsoever. Think about Pavlov's dogs where it's like they start salivating when they hear the bell because they know the food is coming. And so they're getting their dopamine hit as soon as the bell rings. In the same way with casinos, like you hear the jingle jingle and you're like, oh yeah, things that make me happy. And your brain is releasing dopamine. And in the video games too, and even in games that aren't doing casino sounds, think about like a strategy game. All sorts of stuff is communicated with sound, like all sorts of things communicated like sound, like hey, your units are ready or whatever, and you just start to internalize that and just know what to do by sound. What's up, Jack?
Yeah, no, I think in FPS games, a lot of like people get really addicted to the hit marker noises. That's a really satisfying sound. I know personally, like I think the game I've been most addicted to in my life has been Rust, and like when you play that game, you have to really like play it intensely because like when you're playing the game, if you go to sleep in the game, like you can't never log out, and your base is there. It's like you always are so invested in the game so it's like pretty crazy. But definitely the like the headshot sound in that game is just dopamine. So it's like in all games, there's those sounds that are just super satisfying and keeps you like, yeah, you said that like a dopamine trigger.
I think a lot of these game studios have like a psychology department and do loads of A/B testing to really fine tune exactly how to get people addicted, and I think it's probably quite dark. It's probably quite dark what goes on behind those doors. Like Candy Crush, like it's masterfully designed to keep people addicted.
And it's like watching a movie, like a terror movie without sound is not terrified at all, right? Or the sound is not in the same phase. It's a completely different experience. Sound is very important for gaming. And in that sense, like Beat Saber make a big mistake because you cannot choose your songs, right? You have to choose what the ones that they have in the catalog. And I hear the Supernatural has been doing a better job in that part. That's why so many people migrate to Supernatural. It's the same mechanics, it's the same overall thing, but because they have a broader catalog of music, people prefer to pay a monthly fee instead of buying the song. Because if I have a specific taste for songs, and it's just like 3 or 4 that I enjoy in Beat Saber, and after that, like the other ones, I don't really care, right?
Yeah, I'm curious. I've used like Beat Saber mod. This was like a while ago when I used to play Beat Saber, which sort of did that. It was like a community mod where it allowed you to basically get like any song, like even like stuff like the Shrek movie or like just random stuff. And I remember that was a lot of fun, and it made me want to play the game more because there was just like a lot more possibilities.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an appeal to the way Supernatural does it, where you don't have to go through that extra step of modding and, finding it from external sources that are questionable quality versus, But yeah, I mean, that is a solution. If you're looking for more songs for Beat Saber, you can mod it, for sure. I think kind of just bringing this all back to, the topic of our conversation today about stress and stuff and dealing with it, like, talking about it, we can all sort of notice how these cues in games are triggered to dopamine rushes and how they can kind of bring on a game addiction, or how that even applies in other ways in our lives, whether a casino or anything else, how these cues can do that. And I think, the question that we should ask ourselves on a regular basis is, one, what am I conditioned to do? What are the conditioned responses that are built into me? Notice you hear a sound, you know how to react because that's a conditioned pattern or a habit or something. And as you do that, then you start to kind of look at it mindfully, like live your life live your life mindfully, where you can kind of be aware as triggers come up in your life, positive or negative, as you encounter new things, how they make you feel, how they make you respond, and then choose if you want to follow that response. Build your habits, build your reactions, because you're aware rather than just being kind of sucked along by these, I guess, pathways or patterns that other people have created for you. And pushing the meditation angle of it all is like, yeah, if you meditate, kind of like what you were saying before, Becca, like do this stuff when you're not in a crazy stressful situation. Build your mental muscles of meditation when you're not in a crazy stressful situation, when you're not addicted to things. So that way, as you go through life, as more weird situations come up that challenge you, you're prepared, you're already thinking and living in a way that is conducive to adapting and noticing.
Yeah. I think it's very heartening that a lot of the content and games I've seen in VR over the past year and a half has been based on meditation. That's a really good sign.
It's definitely been a few.
Application. Yeah.
You know, you see
So-
now the sound signatures is everywhere. Like Disney has their own signature, the Netflix has their own signature, HBO. So immediately when you hear the sound of something, you know where that belongs, right? So it's. I always hear from people that are expert in transmission of the content that sound is more important than the video because you can lose a few frames of video, nobody will notice. But if you miss something in the sound, you immediately notice that something is wrong with the transmission, right?
No,
Yeah.
yeah. I think sound design is like super important in a VR game, especially when you're, fully immersed. And so, I want to, as I develop my game out, I got to make sure that all the sounds are, because I'm not a sound designer, so, to make sure that like I find a way to like put in the effort there and like make sure that the sound effects are good quality and that like really spend time on the audio because it does make an impact, probably more than people think.
Yeah. I guess we're kind of reaching the end of our consciousness corner for this week, so I'll start wrapping it up and say, thank you all for coming and chatting with us about stress and stressful or ways of dealing with stress. Ben kind of hinted at it earlier, and we didn't really have a chance. We kind of got caught up in our own conversation here, but there are some angles of like Buddhism and Buddhist philosophy and suffering and liberation from suffering that I think tie into this. But I think we'll save that for another conversation down the line, and if that's something that interests you all. And we'll post the video for last week's Consciousness Corner and then eventually this one on the Consciousness Corner Slack channel, or not Slack, Discord channel within Spatial Ape. If you guys have suggestions for other topics, or if there's a topic that you feel, kind of fits the vibe of Consciousness Corner that you all think you would like to run a session on or kind of lead the discussion on for a week, message me or drop it in that channel, and we would love to have, ideas and stuff, what you guys want to hear, what you guys want to talk about. As we continue to grow this, we want it to be a community thing as we grow. So yeah, any feedback that you all have or things that you like or don't like is great to hear. And yeah, I'll drop those songs that I was mentioning before in the channel too, so you all can take a listen. Anyone have any final thoughts to add before we kind of shift over to main Spatial Ape business for the week?
Nope.
Anyone want to plug anything? Their mindful their apps, their conscious thoughts, whatever.
We've got a hand over there. Fletcher.
Not something of mine, but because everyone was talking about audio, something that I've been absolutely hooked on is the Disney Channel has Galaxy of Sounds, and it's literally just footage from all the Star Wars movies and TV shows where they strip out the audio, or they strip out the dialogue, they strip out the soundtrack, and it's just the ambient sound effects that they have in a lot of shots. And it's an absolute amazing thing as far as studying what the background sounds do to increase your sense of inclusion and ambience and awareness. And I just thought I'd give that a mention in case anybody hadn't heard of it.
Where do you find that?
That's cool. Yeah.
It's on the Disney Channel. So it's like Netflix, except it's all just Disney, Marvel,
Disney
Star
Plus.
Wars
Disney
stuff.
Plus.
Disney
So
Plus,
it's on
or-
Disney Plus.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you need an account with it. Luckily, I can hook myself up through my granddad.
Hey.
Ah.
And
Yeah, I'm still using all my family's accounts. Gotta get the
Yeah, yeah.
HBO.
Does that
Never
work with
stop.
Disney as well? I should ask my sister.
Does
all
what?
about who you know.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix, you can have like 7 different people on there at once or something, but I
No,
didn't
Disney
know
Plus.
about
I don't
Disney.
think there's a limit. You can just sort of do
Oh,
whatever
really?
you
Just
want.
share the password. What's your grandfather's password?
Yeah, well, I have, the booth Gods of Gravity there, I presented it last week, but we just, it got approved on AppLab a couple days ago.
Hey, congrats.
And I've been holding, we're going to make an announcement soon, like marketing and stuff, probably this Friday. I assume Friday's a good day to do it. But yeah, I released I did a big update. Because we sent it in like 3 weeks ago, and so I've been polishing up and finishing this like big update, which I've just released right before I logged on. That's why I was a bit late. But now we have voice chat and like facial audio, and it's great. And there's
cool
stability
I'm gonna
improvements,
ask- I'm
Quest
gonna-
2 controllers, and everything. And
I'm
so
definitely going to ask you about that.
yeah,
Excellent.
the spatial audio works wonders, I will say.
Awesome.
Thanks. Anyone else have anything they want to plug? I know, Ben, you got your Squingle.
I've already plugged it.
There.
How was the multiplayer prototype?
Well, it's going well. Yeah, I've been using, after our discussion, got me a lot of thinking, and I've been implementing multiplayer and networking in my game. So I'm gonna hopefully release a multiplayer update soon.
Cool.
It's gonna be pretty fun. But yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I call Consciousness Corner adjourned to next week.
Thank you very much.
Yay.
Yeah, thank you.
Shall we go find out what's going on with Spatial Ape this week? See what's happening over there?
Yeah.
Yay. Hey Becca, I did want to ask you how you were enjoying ZenVR. I know you said you were liking it a little bit.
Yeah, I've been meaning to send you a message and let you know that I'd managed to sit down and have a proper go with it. It's just been such a crazy busy time at the minute. But yeah, I love it. I think it's brilliant. I really love the fact that you've actually got a teacher in front of you. It's not just a kind of disembodied voice speaking down from above telling you what to do. And I think it's really helpful that it's actually got the advice on all the kind of aspects, so like how you fit in and how you're holding your head and things like that. I used to read a lot of Buddhist texts and things, so I already kind of like know some of those bits through reading that. But I think for the average like person that's got no experience with meditation, which a lot of the people that come to our centre, are like, I think it's fantastic the way it gives you that solid kind of base and foundation to work from with it. So I've only tried the first two.
Okay.
But yeah, I really love it so far. I think it's brilliant. I think there's a lot of potential for things you could kind of add on to it in the future, like changing the feature you've got to make it kind of like accessible to different people and things like that. But I think it's brilliant. Congrats.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Two things. One, if it's not too terribly much trouble to throw a review for us on the App Lab, that would be incredible.
Yeah,
Just
of
'cause-
course. Yeah.